Well, good morning. This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXEX, the best talk in town. We are now also on 102.3 FM. We can also be found on various places on social media, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, Truth Social, Twitter. So we're a growing station. I'm excited today because I think that Fresno County is beginning to shift, that we're becoming more organized, and we have a new central committee. And today I am sitting with our new chair. We've been in for about 6 months, and this is Liz Kolstad. Welcome.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
And you have an event coming up this coming Tuesday, August 1st.
Yes, absolutely. The Central Committee does. Every year we do a Lincoln Reagan dinner. So this year it's coming up. It's August 1st, which is on Tuesday, and it's going to be at Pardini's. And we have a fantastic lineup for the speakers. We have Congressman Kevin Kiley. We have Congressman Tom McClintock. We have Senator Shannon Grove is our MC. And then we also have Steve Hilton coming from Fox News and the founder of Golden Together, which is his new PAC.
Oh, I didn't know he had a new PAC. He's an interesting guy. He's a little more libertarian, but a good guy.
Yes, he is. I like him a lot, and he's coming for this, and he's excited, and he's been talking about it on the radio and his shows too. So,
well,
it's nice.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I look forward to meeting him. I'm going, by the way, full disclosure. So this is August 1st, 2023 for my social media audience, just in case somebody sees this at a later time.
Yes.
Now, what do they have to do if they want to go?
If they would like to go, all they have to do is go online. They can get tickets at www.fresnogop.org. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. There are links and posts all over for our event. I have one pinned to my page, both my chairwoman page and my personal page. If you just follow the link, you can go online and pay your tickets, and we'll seat you.
Now, it is a little expensive, but it's a great dinner. I've eaten there many times.
Yes.
And it's going to be good entertainment, and I'm sure that Shannon Grove will make it roll smoothly. Yes. She is really, truly a likable person.
She is. She's very, very congenial. She's funny. So we're looking forward to having her. And one of the things, I mean, the price of everything has gone up. So the table prices over last year haven't. And last year we had, who's now Speaker, Congressman Kevin McCarthy, which was a great event. This year, our ticket prices have gone up just a tiny bit, but the price of everything has increased. However, this year I'm excited to announce that our menu is moving up. We're having New York steak.
Ooh.
So it'll be a great dinner this year. We are still doing our dessert auction. All the desserts will be picked up from La Boulangerie, and every guest can go and bid on the dessert of their choice. So,
well, that is a treat because those La Boulangerie does an amazing job.
They do. They do a fantastic job. So we'll have all of those set up, and people can bid on the dessert of their choice. Because I don't know about everybody else, but dessert's my favorite part of the meal. So when I can choose my own dessert, I'll generally eat it first. And if you go and do the buy it now, you can take it back to your table immediately.
So you know how to prioritize.
Yes, I do. When I go to events, if there's dessert that's already sitting on the table and it looks good, I definitely eat that first.
A lot of people will connect with you on that one.
But the other thing I wanted to make note of is, even though the price is a little bit higher than probably most people had hoped, I still think it's a great deal it's a donation to the party. And there are a lot of people that don't actually have the time or the inclination to put into the party. They believe in the cause. They're conservatives. They're Republicans. But you know the type of friends that they speak with you. You chat. You have great conversations. They're on the same page. But then when you ask them to do something,
anything,
yes, anything, especially if it's something that's a little bit more difficult, like walking precincts or something like that, where they actually, have to show up for something and, do the kind of boots on the ground stuff that most of us do. If you look at it from that perspective, they don't have to do any of those things. All they need to do is just buy a ticket, and they can support us doing the work for them.
Well, that's a partial solution, but not everybody's willing to be the point of the spear.
Yeah, that's true.
So we need every bit of help we can get. Now, is this one of the major fundraisers for Fresno GOP?
Yes, it is the largest, and it's our formal event. But then we also always have a Second Amendment barbecue. And then I'm looking at planning a couple other events later on in the year as well.
Good, because I think having these easy events to go to, it's a great introduction to people that are maybe not as active.
It is.
It's a way to kind of get your foot just a little wet, test the water.
We've been talking about some socials as well, things like maybe membership drive type things. So that isn't going to have a big price tag on it. It's just an invitation to come out and meet the people that are in the party and hopefully get some new people involved.
Well, I know that throughout the year, it's pretty regular for you to be at the fair.
Every year.
And there's other events that you go out to. Who's in charge of doing that? Because obviously, you only got so much time. I've only got so much time.
In the past, I'm not sure who exactly coordinated all of those things. I chaired the Lincoln Reagan for the first time last year, and I made the time for that. This year, we do have an employee. We're down to one. One of our great representatives is now working for one of the senators, and so we lost him, but he used to put together the volunteers and the signups and things like that. But there's actually not that much to do as far as planning. It's more of the setup and then getting the volunteers to actually man the booths is where the challenge comes in.
So the logistics part of it.
Yes, the logistics part, because the fair requires you be there. I believe it's from 10 a.m. to closing, and you can't just leave the booth. You can't close it down and have nobody there. And
right.
So you need somebody all day, every day.
See, I've been at the fair an awful lot of that time, but I've been at the KXEX booth.
Right.
So it's not that I'm not talking to people and pushing a conservative cause. It's just I've been across the room.
Well, you have to use your time off and then come over to our booth. You can just bring a sleeping bag to the fair.
I like that idea. So I'm now officially a part of the Point of the Spear.
Yes, you are. I mean, everybody needs participation. I know you believe in the cause too, and we're doing things a lot differently now. We're going to update the party. What we need to bring in new people. We need more business friendly people, business owners. We need more youth. We need we need more people. The Republican Party needs more people on every level, not just in Fresno.
That is true. And finding a way to connect with youth, finding a way to connect with minorities. Though sitting here in Fresno County, you realize that at least I can speak for myself. I don't know your ethnicity, but as basically a European mutt, I am in the minority because Hispanics are the majority. Now, I don't object to that. I like and have multiple friends, but the Republican Party has not always done a great job of reaching out and making connections. So is there any plans to kind of help fix that problem?
Well, we have several members on the committee already, and a lot of them are involved in another group, RNHA, which is the Republican National Hispanic Assembly. Yep. I might have transposed
I think you got that.
Those names. But a lot of those members work really closely with the Republican Party, with our group, and I think there's a good friendship and a good relationship there, and they I feel like have taken over some of the outreach. I'm not so much identity politics. I want to bring everybody, so I don't think that we should focus on just one area, because we're a big tent. We need everybody, no matter what. And I think that if we do a better job of communicating our values and what we stand for, and what they can be a part of, that it won't matter what the ethnicity is. It'll appeal.
Well, I think that essentially any community that regularly goes to church is probably a pretty good fit.
Yeah.
Just because those values written down in the Bible, they kind of align with Republican values. And I think that the Democrats, I think one of our jobs has to be to point out that they've lost their ever-loving minds. Yeah. I'm not saying that the Republicans are always the answer, but it is very, very clear to me that the Democrats are insane. Thus, we're at least a beacon of hope.
I mean, they're almost, I hesitate these days to say Democrats, because they've almost gone full communist on us. Their policies they've moved beyond the left. I've talked to a lot of Democrats that are like, yeah, the party's gone. Literally, they will agree that it's gone communist these days. And before it used to be like, oh, they're just overgeneralizing, or that's very extreme, or you're being dramatic. But a lot of their policies are socialistic policies these days, the things that they're pushing for. And it's hard to continue to call them Democrats when they've really gone beyond that party line.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, you can almost divide them into two groups. The kind of old school Democrats that still believe in free speech, capitalism, individual liberty, and the woke that believe in authoritarianism, censorship, transgenderism. I mean, it's insane, the divide, even within the
Yeah,
Democratic Party. But the interesting part is there's very few national figures that are in office that I can name that are Democrats that I think are sane. The number is decreasing with each year.
I would agree with that. They've definitely gone on to the extreme, and a lot of the Democrats will say that, like, look at Kennedy. He was being censored by his own party at a censorship hearing.
Yep. I thought that was great irony.
It was. I have a friend that we communicate mostly in memes. We hardly say anything. It's pretty funny. But we'll send the ones about. I know it's not funny to most people, but when you have some of the communist dictators and the socialists, like, you have their pictures on there, and they talk about how the streets are cleaner for the first time, in Germany, having all of the guns registered, and he talked about how basically that was positive and how everybody should be excited about that. But then obviously Hitler took over and exterminated millions of Jews. So it all starts.
Well, not just
somewhere.
Jews, anybody that was a little
Right.
different. Jews were
true.
what we talk about.
They
but
were
if-
the target. Yeah.
But if you go to the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C.,
They didn't stop there. You're
they didn't
correct,
stop there. Anybody that was different had to go.
But
And I'd have been in trouble because I don't have blonde hair. Eventually, they would have just kept paring it back. And
absolutely. And I don't either. So I never have. So it all starts somewhere. And I know people talk about it as being overly dramatic, but it's not. All of these policies need to be looked at carefully, and looked at history. And that's part of the problem with them not teaching history.
or civics.
Exactly.
It's not just civics, it's both.
Yes, and the kids don't know what happened. Some children today don't know what the Holocaust was. Some children today don't know what the national anthem is. I mean, it's absurd, but if you look back, history often repeats itself, and if you don't have it out there, you're not teaching the kids. They don't know how things started. They don't know what could happen if you continue down a path of censorship, registering guns. That becomes taking guns. Socialistic healthcare policies, all the things that they're pushing.
Well, but all that stuff's going to come for free as soon as we get to our utopia, right?
Exactly. And that's the problem. There are too many gullible people out there, or people just in it for the free stuff. People do love free stuff, and that's a way to get people to vote. And the Democrats have used that very successfully for years.
Yesterday, I was wearing a shirt that had a list of all of the socialist countries that were successful.
So you were wearing a shirt that was blank.
Yes, exactly.
It had nothing
Just
on
exactly. It had nothing on it.
Yeah, exactly. And they say, oh, but we can do it better. Admittedly, America, I feel like, can do almost everything better than everyone else, or used to be able to when we had better schools and education systems. But no one can do socialism, and no one can do communism because it doesn't work that way.
Well, it takes all incentive away. Look, in order to have a successful society, you have to have a hierarchy, meaning some people are going to be better at certain things than others. That is just the case. Anybody that has more than one kid realizes those kids have different gifts. Or you have siblings?
I don't.
You don't? Okay. You have cousins?
I do.
Okay. I bet you those cousins have different gifts.
Absolutely, they do. Everybody is different.
Everybody's different. So in order to have a successful society, you set up a hierarchy, meaning this idea that everybody should have exactly equal results. Socialism doesn't work. Socialism always seems to have this ruling elite.
Yep, there's always a dictator. I mean, people point to China. Well, China's doing it. I'm like, yes, but is China's population, are they happy, or are they starving and censored and have no freedoms, and their dictator rules them with an iron fist and shuts down protests and
You disappear if you protest.
exactly.
There's a lot of evidence of that recently.
So why would we want to go that route? Why would we point to them as successful?
Turning a little more local, you do something that I think you need more of, which is basically a candidate training for people that might be interested in being in a position, running for an elected office. You do a training. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
So the CAGOP is actually coming to town, and we're going to be working with them to provide this training. I believe it is October. You put me on the spot. I believe it's October 28th.
That sounds you're close at least. If I can get to my reminders, we'll see.
I'm 98% sure that that's the date for it. So they will come. They will have people specializing in all of the different areas of running a race, from your social media messaging to getting out walkers, running your campaign, finance, which is always important because a lot of people get into the campaigning and they have no idea how to finance things, how the donations work, how the money flows, like what you can put it towards. Um, finding candidates is something that they'll go over as well, more for the central committees and the members that are trying to help find people for these races.
Who would that be open to?
Oh, it's going to be open to everybody. So
Okay.
we'll have signups, and we'll put it on the website, and everybody can come. I mean, it's going to be open to Republicans.
Well, I
We're not
figured that
we're not
you
giving free
discriminate a
training
little
to the
bit.
Democrats, but yes. But yes, if you're a Republican, I encourage you to come out and get involved before then. I mean, that's months away. Come to our meetings. They're the second Tuesday of every month at Redeemer Lutheran Church at 6 p.m. So come out, come meet us, get involved, see what we're doing.
It's generally a pretty lively, well, it's been a lively crowd lately, but the conversations I have before and after the meeting, I think, are the most valuable thing to me, where I make connections. I'm constantly reminded because of the fellowship that I'm not alone.
Mhm.
We're not alone, but we have to act together. There are other people that are willing to be the point of the spear. Are you even willing to help thrust that spear somewhere near the end? Even that little bit would matter.
I know. Even I'm reminded, even trying to promote the dinner, selling tickets and tables, which we have a couple of those left. So if you want to go, please go to our website, fresnogop.org, and you can buy your tickets there. But I digress. So trying to talk to people, um, it's difficult. But even if just writing a check, just a donation is helpful to the party, because then we're able to take that money and do voter registration is something that's on our list for this year. We're going to do paid voter registration so we can get out there and get new Republican registrations in meaningful numbers.
Well, I'm on that committee. I'm happy to say that we're going to try something a little different. We're going to try going to some of the local swap meets, the ramates, and just see how it goes.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think the important thing is that conservatives are willing to get out there and talk to people. That's how the culture shifts. You're not alone. Just because there's censorship on social media, you still have the option of talking to people. Talk about your values. Talk about what's important to you.
That's what we should be talking about. That's how you draw connections with people that might not think that they align with your views. So, with that, the Get Out the Vote committee, and we have also the candidate development committee. So, a lot of the committees having to do with voting should be working together very closely. And I'm excited to see what they're going to be doing. I'm not micromanaging the committees. I'm kind of letting the chairs run those. So I'm happy that everybody is meeting and planning, and that they have goals and events on the horizon. To supplement that, though, I still do want to do a paid voter registration program. I think that we need Republicans in large numbers, and going out and having events where you're meeting people. Part of the importance of that is just the meeting people. It's not even that you got 5 or 10 voter
It's getting people fired up.
Exactly.
Maybe they're now actually would show up at the polls because
Exactly.
the numbers that show up are pitiful.
They are. and just talking to them and telling them how important it is. And like you said, seeing that they are not alone, meeting other people, having conversations. Because sometimes people don't know. They might know that they agree with us on one or two topics, but they have no idea what the rest of the tenets of our party are, like what we believe in, what we're pushing. Because a lot of people are for smaller government. They don't want, if they're not out for handouts, they want the government to take a smaller role. They want the government to take less of their paychecks, which is something that I think is a way to draw a connection with a lot of people. I mean, it's about their pocketbooks, and that's what's important. I mean, we own a small business here in Fresno, and even when I'm handing out paychecks, we do bonuses at this time of year, and I feel I feel bad when I select what's a pretty generous amount, but then I give out the paycheck, and so much of it is taken out. I'm like, oh, that's like a fraction of what I had initially intended to give people. So, I mean, we really need the government to scale back, and Republicans are the only party that want that to happen.
Right. And not all Republicans, but you're absolutely right. That's the only place where there's hope if you want smaller government.
Yes.
If you believe in the Constitution,
Mhm.
because the left, largely the people in control, for instance, our president just decided that the LGBTQ flag should be the central flag on the White House during Pride Month.
Yeah.
The central flag, like the important one,
Right.
not the American flag. The left, the woke left, has decided that if you're patriotic, that means you're all of these isms: racist, sexist, transphobe. That you're all these
Homophobe.
all of these name
Everything.
calling.
Absolutely. Um, and I guess I'm not sure how our country got so off track on the LGBTQ agenda.
Because they were the loudest voices.
They were.
And nobody stepped up and challenged that much. Churches were largely silent.
That's true. And there's nothing, I mean, and not that I need to preface it, but there's nothing wrong with being any of those things. But what I object to is having it shoved down my throat. Like to have an entire month about pride when we don't have an entire month dedicated to veterans or active military, or Memorial Day, the veterans that gave their lives for their service, to celebrate something that's just
a tiny portion of the population.
Right. And it's most people don't celebrate being heterosexual. Like,
yeah.
Why do we need a month to recognize it if you're not? I just feel like
because it was the latest victim group in the Democratic Party. I truly believe is largely made up of all identity politics.
Yeah.
And every one of those identity politics, every one of the little categories you're in, the more you are, it's like you're winning the Olympics. But every one of the categories that you're in, you're always defined as a victim.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's how they reach out.
But that's scary. But how do you have a reasonable life if you view everything through the lens of, I'm a victim? Oh, I get it. Because their solution is always more government. If that didn't work, it needed more money and more government.
Well, and it's worked for some of those groups. I mean, it's made some of the people at the top in, we'll call it management, if you will, very rich. Every time there's something that happens, then they create an organization, they start getting bored, and all of a sudden those people are making millions of dollars. And
so that elite at the top, even though they were claiming they were for equity, seemed to do real well.
Exactly. Which is kind of like socialism. Once you still have the peons at the bottom of society, but then you have leadership at the top that's enjoying expensive dinners and large houses and big parties, and then it's not at all what it was supposed to be.
So it's just like the BLM movement, the buy large mansions movement.
That was incredibly disappointing, but not unsurprising. I mean, you could look at that movement and see they were campaigning on victimhood, basically, using one incident to create a whole new movement. But then their leadership, like you said, ended up taking in huge amounts of money, millions and millions of dollars, and buying huge mansions for herself.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it came to light, it was in the news for a day or two, and then she disappeared, and the investigations disappeared. Can you imagine if that was a conservative organization or a conservative front, like if it had that been, the Tea Party or Mama Bears or something,
Right.
some other organization that got national recognition that started to have millions of dollars, and then
Well, we have
they spent it on themselves and disappeared.
two-tier justice system.
It is true.
So how do we light a fire under people? How do we get them involved?
Well, I think on the local level, we appeal to local leadership. So obviously, Fresno, California is not selecting president.
Right.
They're not.
But I think you got to change local before you can change
Exactly. So where we should be focusing our efforts are on local elections. It's supervisor, city council, school boards, board of equalization, and even other smaller boards throughout Fresno. I know when I first started getting involved, there was a committee that went through and looked at all the openings in local elections.
So this is like an appointed board rather than an elected board?
No, these would be appointed some and elected for some of them. Like I'm on the police protection district board for my area, and when we brought up our list of boards and organizations needing members, there was nobody even running for it. So it's a way to start small. There's not a lot of time commitment to a lot of those little boards, but it gets people involved. And frankly, I feel like it's always better to have somebody that has conservative values on any number of those boards than to have somebody that's not. I mean, it makes a difference. Like for mine, one of the things that we talk about is finance. So if your assessments are going up, wouldn't you like to be a part of that? Having a say that, no, I don't want them to go up versus your neighbor being like, I don't care, I'll pay whatever.
I don't think there's very many people in today's world that are saying I'll pay whatever. The Democrats are quite willing to spend, and socialists are quite willing to spend other people's money, but when it's their money, they're a little more protective.
That is true to some extent, although I would have to say that I have seen more of that in action recently, and it's still me. I mean, you know me on the committee. It's always me that raises my hand and says, I don't want to spend that money. I don't think we should be spending that money. I'm a thrifty, shall we say. But I always like to make sure that there's a purpose behind funds and that you're spending them in the most efficient way possible and that it's not actually just flushing the money down the toilet. That's what's always important to me.
Well, I think that conservatives by nature are better managers. It's like the left has a big party, and then we have to clean up the mess.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always us cleaning up the mess. Even even when the left has a party on the Capitol lawn, for example, we're literally cleaning up the litter that they leave.
Mhm.
When you have like a conservative event, everybody takes their stuff with them.
I've
There are
been to
pictures all over internet. You can Google them if you don't believe me. Look it up. Conservative events, leave everything the way they came. Democratic events, there's trash, litter, all kinds of stuff just everywhere. It's always just a pigsty wherever they
graffiti, vandalism.
Yep. Broken item. Broken.
And I've been to a few events at Sacramento, and I will absolutely speak to that.
Yep. Because we know that all those things cost and somebody has to clean up. And generally, to pay for those things, it's, again, taxpayer money.
We're down to about a minute, so let's go ahead and go over Lincoln Reagan again.
Okay, perfect. So it is this coming Tuesday at 6 p.m. The doors will open at 5:30, but it is at Pardini's. You can buy your tickets at FresnoCountyGOP.org. Please come see us. We have two congressmen, Kevin Kiley and Tom McClintock. Senator Shannon Grove is our MC, and we have Steve Phil Hilton of Fox News and founder of Golden Together.
And don't forget those desserts.
Yes, don't forget your desserts. When you get there, you want to place your bids early.
So instead of just getting served a dessert, you have to bid on a dessert. But if they're coming from La Boulangerie, I've never had anything that I didn't think was great.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, you do bid on your dessert, but it's part of the fundraiser. And frankly, I find that a lot of people are okay with that because a lot of people don't want to take in the calories if it's not tasty. I know I don't. So if I can pick my own dessert and bring it back and share it with my table, I'm all for it.
Well, you'd be the hero of your table. Well, I thank you for sharing this time with me.
Thank you. It was nice to be here. I appreciate it.
We're going to go ahead and go to break. This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXCX, the best talk in town. I want to thank everybody that's on social media. You know, when you give comments, when you like, when you subscribe, when you share, it really helps forward this message. And I hope that you do make it out to the event. I hope that I get to meet some of my listeners. And I think it's for a good cause. By the way, is it tax deductible?
No, political events are not tax
Oh,
deductible.
well.
So you have to do it because you believe in the cause.
Well, that's still a good enough reason. All right, we're going to go ahead and come. You said you only had 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Or 30 minutes, so you're good. So we're going to go ahead and come back. This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXCX, the best talk in town. I'm going to start with something fun. We're going to play a video from 1952. I ain't no communist. I think that it'll bring a smile to your face. I think it's very true of my listening audience. If you happen to be a communist and listening to this show, I hope you learned something. But this is a fun traditional song back when everybody was patriotic, where you were the odd duck if you weren't patriotic. Now it's like they're accusing people that are patriotic of basically being white supremacists, Nazis, because you love your country, because you're populist. Let's go ahead and play the video.
We're living in a country that's the finest place on earth, but some folks don't appreciate this land that gave them birth. I hear that up in Washington they're having an awful fuss, 'cause communists and spies were making monkeys out of us. The bureaus and departments have been busy night and day. They're figuring out just how we gave our secrets all away. And Congress has appointed a committee, so they said, to find out who's American and who's a low-down red. They call them up to Washington to speak for Uncle Sam, but when they ask them what they are, they shut up like a clam. I wish they'd take and put me on the witness stand today. I'd yell so loud old Stalin could hear me all the way. I'm no communist, I'll tell you that right now. I believe a man should own his own house and bar and cow. I like this private ownership, I want to be left alone. Let the government run its business and let me run my own.
And let's go ahead and wrap that up. So I just thought that was kind of a gem from the past. I absolutely believe that. But it was nice to hear that that was part of popular culture, that the idea that you were no communist, that we stood against this evil, insidious idea. And I think that the strongest thing standing in the way of that evil, insidious idea, because I don't know whether Trader Joe is actually a communist. I think he's just for sale. I think he would be whatever anybody wanted as long as they pay him and give him some ice cream. But, when you start comparing Trump and Biden, and I'm not sure that Biden will be the nominee. I think it's even quite possible that our pretty boy here, Gavin Newsom, the guy that thought he should shut down churches, but it was okay for strip clubs to stay open. Yeah, that guy, the pretty boy lying creep that thought that it was okay for him to leave the state, but we weren't allowed to leave the state. It was okay for him to not wear a mask and get photos with a celebrity, and in this case, it would be Magic Johnson, while at the Super Bowl, which he called a super spreader. But it wasn't okay for the people in the stands to not wear a mask. I'm thankful that most of the people in the stands chose to exercise their freedom how they saw fit. The same Gavin Newsom that said, well, we can't have fireworks displays on the first part of COVID, that first July. And when you look at videos, you can watch 10-minute videos, 15-minute videos of Americans shooting off fireworks because they didn't have any fireworks displays. LA was lit up in a way that was amazing. So, getting off of that, comparing Trump and Trader Joe. Well, I think that Trump actually, he's a born again Christian, believes in God. Trader Joe believes in who pays him cash and government. Trump, well, he is real. He's kind of like a lot of your uncles that are outspoken, but they're real. You don't always agree with them. I mostly agree with them, but you heard what they actually believed as opposed to this cookie cutter, fake, willing to lie over anything. Trump exaggerates, but he's not outright telling total fibs like Trader Joe. Also, Trump generally behaves normally. He's got a bit of an ego, but he behaves normally as opposed to Joe at every opportunity is sniffing little kids. There's a wonderful video where he's pretending to eat a kid. He sniffs girls, even when they clearly from their body language want no part of that old coot. Trump tried to shut down the border. Joe Biden went, oh, the border's shut. Let's shut it by letting everybody in. If you're letting everybody in, they come through the border, you give them a court date, and everybody, meaning they've found people from something close to 200 countries now that have come across our border. This is not just one place. Everybody's rushing here. Well, they're not really vetting those people. They don't really know what's going on. So Trump wants a border wall because a country, in order to exist as a country, has to have a border. And bought off Biden, Trader Joe, he wants no border. Again, I think Trump is kind of sane when it comes to trans issues. He's not anti-trans, but he doesn't want it shoved down his throat. And he doesn't want it happening to kids. And Trader Joe has said, oh, no, that's the most important civil rights issue of our era. And he believes that kids should be able to get surgeries. By the way, there is a Republican running against Trump in the primary, Asa Hutchinson. Don't ever give that man the time of day or a penny because he's totally okay with parents transing their kids. Again, I think it's icky, but if you want to trans yourself as an adult, but there's freedom in this country. You want to do it to a kid, that means that they will never be able to have children. Those kids in all 50 states. By the way, Joe Biden, there's only 50 states. He seems to think there's a few more. But in all 50 states, a kid can't go get a tattoo. But in California, if a kid wants to start puberty blockers, which if you stay on them for very long will not only change your body, but stop you from being able to reproduce. California wants to be able to take your kids. And that seems to be the direction that Gibber and Joe wants to go. Trump portrayed, even though he was often a loudmouth, he portrayed strength. I appreciated that strength. Joe, well, sometimes he's angry, pretends like he's tough, but I don't think he projects strength whatsoever. It's not just a physical thing. He's not clear in his decisions. He's not clear in his speech, let alone the physical constantly falling down. He is a laughingstock in the international community. I have multiple friends from around the world, and they all say the same things. And when you start tuning into BBC, pretty leftist news group out of Great Britain, they don't talk about what a great job Joe's doing. They talk about how he's a bumbling fool. Well, what about if you went over to India and you listened to their newscast? Joe, the bumbling fool, the embarrassment of the world. And, Joe came in to be Scranton Joe, the regular guy that would bring decency back to the presidency. Well, that'd be fine if that's what we got, but what we got instead was the guy that brought a price tag to the presidency. His son, is involved in all kinds of selling off access, pay to play, pay to have access to Joe Biden. And there's a lot of evidence with that. You know, Trump did things that grew the economy. He got government out of the way. He gave us a tax cut. Bidenomics. They spent a whole bunch of our money because government doesn't create money. They printed a bunch more money, which caused a whole bunch of inflation. That money they spent, part of it they spent to pay people to sit on their butts at home rather than get back to work. So they were paying more than a lot of small businesses could afford to pay their employees. Those employees said, nah, I don't want to work. I'll sit on my butt. Think there might be a problem with that? You know, Trump is for meritocracy, meaning, and if you ever watched like his Apprentice show, the most capable move forward. Clearly advocates the idea that if you work the hardest, you're the smartest, you're the best at something, you should get that job. Biden, on the other hand, is for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Or at least that's what he mouths, because again, I think he's just a paid off hack. I actually think that the DEI actually should stand for. I think they have the wrong acronym. Or it's the right letters, but they have the wrong words that go with it. I don't think it's diversity, equity, and inclusion. I think it's actually division, exclusion, and indoctrination. So think about that. DEI, division, exclusion, and indoctrination. That's kind of a problem. We're going to go ahead and take a break. This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXEX, the best talk in town, now also on 102.3 FM. So I always try to leave some thankful things, so let's go ahead and come back. This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXEX, the best talk in town. Don't forget to get your Lincoln Reagan tickets if you listen to the first part of the show. Hope you make it. Hope to meet you there. Moving on, the last part of the show, I always try to make some of it hopeful. And I think there's some hopeful things going on right now. One of them is, I think there's a few candidates running on the Republican side, even though I can't imagine I'm not voting for Trump, but let's face it, Trump's 77. Something could happen. There could be a health issue. We got a lot of time. I am absolutely thrilled that Tim Scott seems to be not a bad guy. I'm not thrilled with Tim Scott. He believes too much in government. He didn't give great answers on the war in Ukraine. I'd say all those same things about Ron DeSantis. Again, not perfect, but pretty happy with what he did as governor. But there is a candidate I am absolutely excited about, and that is Vivek Ramaswamy. I hope actually Trump picks him as VP. I don't think he's going to win, but the fact that there's other candidates in the race forces Trump to sharpen his sword. Because once he's going against the Democrats, it's battle. And I get that Trump is battle tested, and that's part of why I can't imagine I'm not voting for him. Again, we've got a lot of time. Something crazy could happen, but I can't imagine. Just because the Democrats will never end finding things that they can take him to court about because they don't believe actually in justice, but instead they're trying to smear him. Even if he's in jail, I can't imagine that I'm not voting for Trump. That doesn't mean I'm not absolutely excited about the fact that Vivek Ramaswamy, he's going all of the places where he's not liked. And he's speaking a conservative message. Essentially, it's outreach to the world, outreach to every community that has largely been a stronghold. We've got quite a number of cities in the United States, major cities like San Francisco, that are dying because of liberal woke policies. Well, Vivek's going to those places, talking to the people, and trying to make them understand. He's essentially bringing light to those places that, hey, we're all Americans. We used to all believe that this was a great country because of the opportunity. You're not a victim. And I really don't believe that people, I'm sure there's an exception, but I don't believe people are victims by and large. I believe that people are responsible for their own destiny, and behavior helps strongly determine that destiny. Things like, did you get married? Did you stay together? Did you have kids after you were married? Do you do drugs or not? All of those things would really speak to your success. Well, depending on which side of it you chose. So I'm thrilled about Vivek Ramaswamy. I hope he's vice president. When I was on with Guillermo Moreno and we talked presidential politics, he said, I like what Vivek's saying, but he's not taking him seriously. Well, Vivek is all of a sudden creeping up in the polls. He is suddenly third. He has eclipsed Mike Pence. Now, I think that's partially because Vivek's doing the right thing and partially because Mike Pence went on with Tucker Carlson and talked about how he didn't care about the people, essentially. You can find the quote. It's all over the internet, even though it's not necessarily on regular network news. So, Guillermo, I'm calling you out. Vivek's better than you thought, and he's definitely better than I thought. He also came in second at the Turning Point USA poll. They said Trump overwhelmingly won, but if you had to pick somebody else, all those Turning Point people went, Vivek's my number 2 person by like 55%. With all those other candidates, that really speaks to his strength. Talking about some culture war stuff that I think are wins. ESPN went woke, approximately 5 years ago. They had to make everything about race, that you had to have the correct liberal positions. Yet sports is one of the true places where if you're not talented, you're not going anywhere on a team. You're not even getting on the team. You're not even getting the tryout. So would that make the NFL, who is predominantly black, would that make it racist? Not to me, because I think that for some reason, if you need somebody that's strong and big and athletic, there seems to be more African Americans that fit that bill than anybody else. And almost no Asians. Wonder why that would be. What about basketball? It's even more run by African Americans. Is it that we're unfair? No, it's not that we're unfair. So ESPN, it's tanking. It's really struggling. Disney keeps failing. Disney recently decided to Bud Light themselves, meaning try to destroy their company. The sad part is they don't even seem to realize how bad it is by rewriting the Snow White story. So they've gotten rid of 6 of the 7 dwarves. Now it's the magical people. They kind of look like hobos. There's a woman. There's a hipster in kind of scrungy clothes. I guess he's a grunge hipster. And 1 dwarf. Snow White no longer gets saved by the prince because he wouldn't want to kiss her while she was asleep. He has to wake her up. At the end, she pushes the love interest, a new guy named Jonathan rather than the prince, to go fight the queen. Pushes him into the mud to go fight the battle herself. I don't see this as strong woman. I see this as completely, if they want to do some other story, fine. But they're telling us this is Snow White. No, it's not. It's totally a rewrite woke version. And they're paying the price for it. Buzz Lightyear, utter failure. Little Mermaid, utter failure. Guardians of the Galaxy, not a failure, Disney. Guess what? One of the first ones they've done that wasn't woke in a while. But they keep having these duds. Well, I think that's just awesome. And their attendance at the park is way down. We're winning the culture war, but you have to keep it up. Bud Light has lost billions. I don't even know what the current number of billions. I think it's 29, but a ton. Target, way above 15 billion and struggling. Just watched a video about how they might fold as a company. Well, go woke, go broke. We have the Supreme Court on our side. But that doesn't mean that you don't need to get involved. We still need to get involved. We still need to do better. The reason I'm on this radio, and I make no money doing this, is because I believe in freedom. I believe in individual liberty. And I believe that our Constitution enshrines that liberty in a way that is a light to the world. Even in these tough times, people are still racing to get into the U.S. across our open border. Folks, get involved, make a difference. This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXEX, the best talk in town. For my social media audience, I'm just going to do a brief little bump for the Great American Freedom Revival, August 5th. That is Saturday, so different event than the one I was talking about earlier. This one features Brandon Tatum, so he'll be talking about current events. It features Tim Barton from Wall Builders. He'll be talking about the past. And then it will have a biblical prophecy message. This is happening in Clovis, California, August 5th. If you go to revivalusa.net, I believe it's .net, you can find this event. I hope to see you there. I'll be at both events, both the August 1st event and the August 5th event. I thank you for this time.